Okay, so I went ahead and I spritzed everyone's palette with some water, so it should be pretty well soaked. And we'll begin with a warm-up, so that means we'll be making those brush strokes on that first sheet. Hi, Kay.
Okay.
So you'll see you have 2 sheets of paper. We'll just take one for now and practice the types of strokes that we're going to put on this paper. Now, actually, I wonder if this paintbrush is too big. Hold on. We have other sizes here. So I gave you a large and a small round brush. However, I think it might actually be better if we use a medium one, if I can find them. If not, maybe we'll stick to the small one for now. Yeah, let's do... Oh, wait. Hold on. There's medium here. I don't know if there are enough. Okay. We'll stick with the small one today. You can try using this one later, but I think it's going to be easier, actually. Hold on. Okay, this will be for the flowers, and this will be for the stems. I had to think about it. I used a different brush at home. So, hi, Kay. We're going to paint these flowers today and begin with a warm-up like we did with this one at one of the previous classes. So we'll begin with the warm-up. You can use any color that you like. However, I recommend using the color that you want to paint the flowers with. On mine, I used like a red or pink and purple. So I'm going to go ahead and use those colors as well so I can get a feel for how they look. Now, for this one, let's begin with some just loose marks. I'm going to pick up some water and then pick my color for my flower. This red here produces a pink. This one, if we use just a little bit. If you want to make it a slightly warmer red, you could mix it with an orange or this brown a little bit. And then let me actually give you all a pencil in case you'd like to use it. This is optional. Oh, paper towel. Yeah, we are missing paper towel. Hold on. I forgot. And there's more if you need.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Paper towel. I need it myself. Alright. Now, I passed out the pencil because if you'd like to make a line on here just to make a mark, I would suggest perhaps around here. This top half will be flowers and this bottom part will be lines, just to make sure we have enough space here. If you do run out of space though, it's okay. We can just use the other side of the paper. I'll make a line right there to divide. So with this top part, we'll just practice making petal shapes and flower shapes. On these I have about 5 petals per flower. And these can be very loose. I'm using just this larger brush, and let's say I'm gonna practice making some of these. I'll just practice making some curves here. One, 2, 3, and then 2 on the bottom, kind of like a star. And this is where you can see if, oh, you think color is too light, you can add more pigment. If it looks too dark to you, try adding more water. This is where you can kind of test out your shapes and your strokes, your colors. You can also make your petals face in different directions. Like say you want to make your flower look like it's facing upward. Then I would make more narrow petals, all facing up. So for example, on this one, I'll do a narrow one here, and then maybe something like that, and that's it. It'd be flat on the bottom. That one's facing up. Maybe for some of them you can only see 3 petals. Let me see if I can show. So right here, you can see I've got an even sheen of water on here. It looks very flat. This is ideal for dropping in the blooms. So adding another color, maybe a darker one, to where it'll look even, because you can see it's not puddling. If I were to add a lot of water where it puddles, it would look more like this. This is too much water for an even bloom. So if you want an even bloom or an even gradient, you've got to remove that water by drying out your brush, maybe by wiping it on the edge of the palette like this, or the edge of your water cup. It's removing the water from the brush, and then you can pick it up like this until you don't see it puddling anywhere. Then you know it's even. You can also practice your wet on wet technique on here. Oops. I'm trying to get this to adjust properly. So as long as this is still wet, you can experiment with dropping in different colors on top. I'm gonna try using this dark purple and use a lot of pigment so that it shows up very dark. If I put it in the middle, it'll bloom like that. This one I think is still wet. That will also bloom. This one's starting to dry and it may not bloom as well. Oh, actually, it's still wet. It's just wet enough. But you can practice adding these colors on top on this practice sheet. Whoa. What was that? Hope something didn't just break. But yeah, go ahead and take this time to experiment with the colors and the water and the wet on wet technique. After we do this for a few more minutes, we'll practice painting the stems on the bottom. You can also play with the shapes or sizes. I'm going to try a different color. Start using purple. for the other flower. There are 2 flowers that are featured here, essentially, maybe 3. This one's bigger. On some of these I'm using 2 different colors. On this purple one I'm using the purple and then the magenta that's next to it. Questions so far? No? Okay. We'll keep practicing a little bit. If there's something you want to practice, you could just paint the same thing over and over again and make slight adjustments with each one to your liking. Maybe you want to adjust how much water you're using, or the color, or the shape. There's a lot you can play with here. One thing to keep in mind that when you're creating your gradients or your blooms is that the more dry the paint that you apply, the less it'll bloom. So it won't spread as much the less water there is. The more water there is, the more it'll spread. For example, on this one I used fairly dry paint and it's not really going anywhere. But if I were to make it more wet, it will travel further, like this. This has more water in it.
Hello. Hi, Carol. Okay, sounds good. Yep. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Do this for about 2 more minutes and then start practicing the stems with just the lines. One tip is if you find your paintbrush is too watery before you apply it, you can use the edge of the palette here where there's a ridge and push it against it to release the paint. If you want to keep the paint but without putting too much on your brush, you can release it like this. You see how it's coming out like that? That's one way. If you don't want to put the paint back in here, it can stay in your palette. That's one way you can make sure that your paint, if it's a light color, you can still keep it light without having too much water in your paint if you squeeze it out. The other way is to just wipe some off in your paper towel after. But if you want to conserve paint, wiping it off in the palette is a good way to do that. Okay, I'll do one more here. Okay. We'll go ahead and wrap up the flower you're working on, then we'll move on to practicing the stems. With the stems, we'll be using this much finer brush. It's a little hot in here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is anyone else feeling hot? Doesn't seem like it. I'm a little bit warm too. Should I try to turn on the AC? It's gonna be kind of loud.
AC is here, yeah.
Yeah. Is it too loud, or would you prefer?
Whatever everybody else wants. I'm
You're
just
okay.
fine, yeah.
Is anyone else hot? Is it too hot in here?
Too hot?
Yeah.
No.
Just run it.
I'm good.
You're okay?
That's all right. Whatever.
Okay. I know if we turn it on, it'll be much louder in here, so it's up to you. But let me know if it gets too hot then, because we can turn it on anytime. Alright, now with this really tiny brush, I might end up turning it on because I'm getting too hot, I think. I'll try to do this first. So with the small brush, let's pick a green. I'm going to use this darker green here. And to make it look more harmonious with the purple colors that we used earlier, I'm going to mix it with a little bit of the red. You can also use a purple too. Just any one of the other colors that you use, mix in a little bit. It'll make it look more unified. I lied, I used the purple, but you can use either one. If you blend it with the red, it'll look more like a brown. Now it'll be a kind of a cooler looking green. And for this bit, we'll just practice making straight lines across the page. The practice is to try to see if you can keep your hand pretty steady to make a uniform thickness. And if your hand is wobbly, that's okay. We're just practicing. And we're trying to keep it pretty thin. Now, if you think your green looks too cool, you can add in a lighter green, like this one. Experiment with different shades. My recommendation is to keep your wrist on the table. It's much more steady to rest it on something like this, to put it down, than to keep it in the air. So I recommend putting your wrist, resting it on the table to keep it more stable. You can experiment with different widths too, but the goal is to keep it pretty thin. I'm going to try doing a slightly thicker one here. Now this is just warm up and practice, so we're just getting used to this movement of pulling the brush across the page. And you can keep repositioning your hand if you need to on the table, or repositioning the paper. You can also make part of a line, and once you reach the end of that movement, you can pick it up, move your hand, and then keep going. This can take a lot of concentration. And after you get a few of those in, we'll go ahead and work on the actual piece here. Now that you've practiced it a few times, it should feel easier on here. Okay. Any questions so far before we begin on the artwork?
Just those flowers, that's still gonna have to.
What would you like to change about them?
Oh, good. I don't know, dividing them into parts, it's like, not really even parts.
Oh, are you talking about making them look filled in all the way? Oh, okay. I think that's just a matter of practice and filling it in with the tip of your brush. Maybe you can start with an outline and then fill it in as if you're coloring it.
Yeah, I was just gonna look at it.
And I've noticed that you got it here and here,
Yeah.
here in this one too.
Well,
Okay. Anyone else have questions?
I don't really know if to ask the question.
Is there anything you would like to change or want to know more about?
I need more practice.
I see you've got everything filled in here. You've got the blends here. Is it blending too much? Like, would you like it to blend less?
Right.
Then I would use, when you put in the darker color like that, or the second color on top, I think you have too much water here, so you need to remove it by maybe rubbing it against this bridge here to wipe it out, and then apply it, because you just need to remove some of the water from your brush. If you'd like me to show you, I can show you over here. So let's say I use this one to create. So that's my flower, right? And you see there's a puddle there?
Right.
So I can remove the excess water by brushing it off here a little bit. Some of it's come out now because I'm pushing it against this to squeeze it out. And then I can pick it up like that. And having the ability to take in some water or some paint. Let's say I want to drop in this color, and I'm not even wetting my brush. I'm going directly in here, and that makes it very concentrated, and it's not very wet. Then, because it's not too wet, if I put this in here, it'll only maybe spread about that much. Now let me show you what happens. Yeah, let me show you what happens if I have too much water. So there's this much water in it, and I'm not squeezing any of it out. This will start to go all over.
Right.
Yeah. So you can also test it out on here to see if there's too much water. Like, see how much water there is. This is puddling.
Right.
This is my test mark. Okay, have too much. I'm gonna squeeze it out by rubbing it against here. Oh, sorry.
See if we can pick it up.
And then let me test that again with this mark. Okay, that's a little bit less watery. Still a lot. If this isn't enough, you can always just take a paper towel, remove it like this. That's even less water now. We can always test it out first on your test sheet before you apply it on your artwork to see how much. Yeah. Does that help? No, that might have been a lot of information. Yeah, let me figure this out. You can try it yourself on here too. Yeah. This is your test sheet now. So if you're unsure of something or want to see how much, if you have too much water or too little water in your paintbrush, you can test it out on here first before you put it on your artwork. Okay, I'll keep my test sheet on hand as well. I think I have a habit of not using my test sheet because I've done it a lot of times and I don't need it anymore. But when I was practicing as a student, I had to test out everything on another sheet first to make sure I didn't mess up my artwork. So I recommend keeping one of these on the side. All right. Now for this flower painting, we could begin with sketching it in first, or you could loosely paint these in and then we can draw the stems in later and then paint them in. For this, what I think we should try is to loosely paint the flowers on top and then use the pencil to place the stems before we paint them in. So on this one, my composition was just kind of, it's flowing this way. So I painted flowers kind of randomly spaced out, following a line going this way. So I have this here for reference if you just want to directly copy this one. And I went with one type of flower at a time. So I started with this light pink one. After I finished all of those, I went in with the purple. So I'm going to do the same thing here if you want to follow along. Since I already have the colors, I'm going to use what I made earlier. This is the mix of some of this red with a little bit of this brown to make it a warm color, but it's mostly this red. Now, if you are mixing your color again and you want to test it to see if it's too light or too dark, you can test it on this sheet of paper. I like how light this is. It's puddling a bit, so later on I'll soak this up with the brush, but for now, I'm gonna start on this corner because I'm right-handed. It's just better to start on the left side for me so I don't accidentally smudge it as I go to the right. I'll start down in this corner and just make like a kind of a plump star-shaped flower. And with every few flowers that I paint, I'll drop in some color for that bloom, just so that I can put it in before it dries. But first, I'll put down this initial layer for several of them. And here it can get a little bit abstract as long as it's somewhat of a flower shape. It can still look beautiful. I'm kind of just clustering petal-like shapes around each other, up to 5, maybe at least 3 at a time. put one here. I'll try making some petals thinner, some wider. At this point, I'll start to drop in color because I know my paint, that first layer will dry within a few minutes. So after I finish this, I'm going to take a darker pigment, such as this red. Just use a lot of it without much water. I'll test it out on here to make sure it's dark enough. Yeah, that's quite dark. And it's not very watery. I'll start putting it in the middle there. You can try different colors too, like the brown instead of the red. The red I just realized looks kind of intense, so let's try this brown. I'm just putting that darker color in the middle. I'll give you all a couple minutes to catch up here.
Would you be kind, are these too much of a puddle?
No, that's actually really good for the bleed right now because it's not collecting in any one spot. It looks
Okay.
pretty flat. Yeah, so if you were to drop in another color on top right
So
now.
what did you drop in, brown and?
I would suggest this one. At first I used that, but I realized it's too intense, so that one's pretty nice. Yeah.
Oops. I've got enough balance.
Yeah, you got it.
It's pretty tight.
Any questions? Do you want it to be lighter or?
No, I haven't had enough water.
Yeah, I can see that. Do you want to try the bloom as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one right now is just the right amount of wetness for you to.
Is it right?
Yeah, it's like it's not puddling. You can see it's got a flat sheen,
Uh-huh.
and as long as it's shiny like that, if you put another color on top without too much water, it'll
That's not
spread.
gonna be too much.
Yeah, and you want to use a different color, maybe. What would you like in the middle? Maybe this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I, yeah.
Okay. This one doesn't look like it's dark enough. It's quite light. You want to make it more concentrated with the paint. Yeah. And you can test it out on here to make sure it's dark enough. You'll want it darker than this. That might work. It's a little bit dry looking. I think you need just a tad more water. Yeah, that's okay. So this is a good amount of water. However, it looks a bit light. So I would get a little bit more of this, and then that should be enough. There's a lot of tweaking here going on.
Okay. Put it down here.
I would want to try it in the middle there to make the bloom.
Oh,
Yeah, and usually just one drop is enough.
okay.
No, that's still looking fairly light. So if you wanted it to be darker, I would just use more of the paint. Yeah.
Okay.
Well done. Okay, I will continue with adding more flowers here. I'm going to begin with the initial layer again for some new flowers. Oops, I made this too dark. I'll just add 2 here. Maybe 2 more up here. It's all looking very pretty. Feel free to use the bigger brush for the flowers if you want to try something that might save you a little bit more time, just because it's a bigger brush that can make bigger marks. You don't have to use as many strokes to fill in the space. I'm gonna go ahead and make a few purple flowers, the bigger ones. Do the same thing, but just different colors and different sizes of flowers, essentially. This one I'm gonna just only have either 4 petals, or it'll be like a round flower. This one, it helps to use the bigger brush, especially because it's a much bigger flower. Remember, the more water there is, the more it'll spread. The less water, the less it'll spread. And that goes for the water that's in your brush as well as the water on your paper. Both of them affect how much the bloom will spread. On some of mine, I put on some fairly dry paint and it's barely blooming, like this one on the bottom. And I'm going back in and adding a tiny bit of water, although this takes a lot of practice just to make sure it's the right amount. I'm kind of just like spreading it out by moving it with my brush. About 5 minutes we can start adding some of the stems.
Getting close to 12.
I can
Yeah.
change my color.
When it's 12 o'clock, you can just leave everything here. You don't have to clean up. I'll clean up for you. So you can just focus on painting right until then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll let you know when we're getting very close to 12. Right now it is 11:46. taking my usual video. Okay. Now, after you complete the flower you're working on, you can work on this part. I'm just going to use my pencil to draw in where I want the stems. After that, I'm going to trace over them with the green. So I'll go ahead and do that so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm just going to connect some of these flowers where it makes sense to me. It's a bit hard to see. Right. Looks good to me. So I'm gonna do what I did earlier. When I find the brush, where did I put my brush? Let's just use this one. Trace over my line, pencil line, with the green that we made earlier. And when you paint this line, feel free to rotate the paper if that makes it easier. Like on this one, I can do this, go this way. I feel like varying the green, so I'm going to mix in this lighter one. And again, make sure you test out your colors on here before you apply them on the paper. If I had done that, I would have done this first. And then do this. Hey. Hey, Tanya. You're early.
Starting late today.
Well, aren't you starting late today?
At 12.
Oh, okay.
I just got here.
Hey, you're early.
Yeah, the parking was really bad.
Uh-oh.
I was like, wow, I cannot find no parking. Ooh, that's really pretty.
Yeah.
What's
Everyone
the
got
cherry
to
blossoms?
practice. I don't know what it is actually, but I found a nice photo online
Yes.
and I decided to follow it. They kind of look like cherry blossoms.
Yeah, a little bit. Pretty.
Thank you.
Very, very pretty. Only 3 toys today?
minutes till you can just drop everything. We'll clean up for you. We can keep painting for 6 more minutes before it's 12 o'clock.
I think I'm through with what I'm doing. So.
You're done? Ooh, can I take a picture?
Yep, you can take a picture.
Thank you. It's beautiful. I love your bold colors.
Thank you.
You've always got bold colors. Great, thank you. Did you have fun?
Yes, I did.
Good.
I always have fun.
Yeah, you do. I don't even need to ask.
Walker?
Yeah.
You have a dentist appointment today, huh?
Yeah.
Well, good luck with that.
By the way, the pencil line is optional. If you just want to go straight in with your brush, that works too. But I find it easier to follow that line than to paint it freehand. Thanks for coming by, Sherry.
Thank you.
Have a good
It
lunch.
was fun. Yes.
Yeah, hopefully see you next week. We might change the time a little bit, depending on what else you have in your schedule. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, check out the schedule.
Availability for July, but Jocelyn's not in today. She got called off.
Oh, okay, okay.
She will. I don't know if she's gonna be here tomorrow, but
Yeah,
most
whenever.
likely she'll check it. She'll availability and she'll let you know what days
Yeah, sounds
she's
good.
planning.
It sounded like Wednesdays are going to be busy, so.
Wednesday?
She said there are more outings scheduled
Oh yeah.
on Wednesdays, so that's why.
So she probably wants to move it for Thursdays maybe or.
Yeah, hopefully the Thursdays work.
I'll see what other days. I know Tuesdays we have a busy sometimes because we have the happy feed and then sometimes they have meetings here.
It sounds like a busy time.
10 o'clock will be too early for you.
Oh yeah.
10 o'clock will be too early for you. Hi, how are you? Good, good. I know.
These are so pretty.
Oh, that's so pretty.
That is really pretty.
Look at everyone's work.
They did a good job.
Yeah.
They're very
We've been
talented.
practicing a lot.
Oh, that's
Talented with cadence. I know it's really pretty. Do you want to like frame it in a cute little frame?
I know I stole Sherry's.
Oh,
I
she
told
gave
her
you
I'll
one?
keep it. Yeah.
Oh, nice of her.
That's really pretty.
I know, the colors.
Yes.
They go very well together. Alright, alrighty.
Enjoy your scenic drive.
Yeah, it's just an hour. I don't need an RA for that. It's just getting the rest of the part going. It's Helen.
Okay.
Our part here, boy.
Are you done, Kay? Do you need your walker?
You need a walker, you will?
Kay's walker.
It ran away.
It's 11:58, just so you know. So you have 2 more minutes until 12.
Oh, that's fine.
I think I'll add some last
We
minute
have a
details on
scenic
mine.
drive at 3. I mean, at 3. At 1:15 if you want to come. It's just for a drive.
Oh, I know that you're going on Scenic Creek.
Yeah,
No,
Victor wanted me to check around and see if I wanted to get more residents to go. Because so far I have 4 only.
How many can you take?
10.
Oh, okay.
10. But sometimes I'll get 4 or 5, you know.
Hmm.
I feel like for the lunch outing, it's always more residents go for the lunch outing.
Do you go out for a restaurant or a?
For this one, it's just for a drive. Just
Oh,
for
okay.
a scenic drive to Saratoga.
Ooh.
Victor's gonna drive through like the historic places in Saratoga,
Mm.
where all like the mansions are, the wineries.
Oh.
Pretty nice. It's a nice day to go for a drive.
When it's a lunch tour, do they also get lunch outside or?
Jocelyn does the lunch outings. I think it's
Yeah.
not this Wednesday, but maybe I think the following Wednesday.
Mm.
We went this last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Roses at the beach, with no
Roses.
beach.
Yeah, I know, right? It's a nice restaurant. Rosie
They have
said-
good seafood.
Yeah, it's pretty,
Ooh.
pretty nice. Rosie's at the beach. It has the theme like you're on vacation, like in a resort.
Oh, that's
It's
nice.
in Morgan Hill.
Oh, Morgan Hill's nice.
Yeah. That was my first time in Morgan Hill.
Oh, for the lunch tour?
Yeah,
Or the lunch drive?
yeah, it's pretty nice.
The
Thank you.
The check workshop is this afternoon, so I need to go to that.
The tech work? Oh yeah. And then we have our wind down Wednesday.
I might make that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's gonna be outside in the spring court.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Ken.
Thanks for coming, Kay. See you next time. Bye, Marianne.
Enjoy your lunch.
You're welcome.
You got a haircut.
See you next
huh?
week.
I sure did.
How are you doing, Lori?
Looks like you're finishing up.
That's a real change.
Yeah. You brought a walker with you? Oh, right there.
It looks like you got the hang of the wet on wet.
I hope so.
Get up in there.
Be anxious to jog again, and I will.
Yeah, I have a lot of opportunities to practice.
I got some at the last one.
Yeah.
Get lost in what you're doing here.
Yeah, it gets really, it's really fun. You're in the zone. I could keep going too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Very enjoyable.
Ooh. Can I take a quick picture of that one? Turned out really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. The colors are really